Welcome back to International Women's Day programming. This is Joe Madrid with High Life Consulting. You're listening to Fresh Air Community Radio 90.3 FM in Minneapolis and streaming on the web at www.kfai.org. Radio without boundaries, folks. And today we are talking, and there are no boundaries here. We've been talking with some amazing professional women that have been leaders and advocates here in Minnesota in the cannabis and hemp community. I have Maren Schroeder, Mary Kay Gilbert, Laura Mon Ginsberg, Sarah Wellington, and Natalie Patera with me today. We've been talking a lot about the social justice piece and the legislation. Let's talk a little bit just about business. I know that lots of folks that are probably listening today have it in their mind like, hey, I'd love to start a business in the cannabis industry. That sounds like an amazing thing. How can I do that? I want to ask you, Laura, what would you say to those folks, and what are some of those challenges that you've seen with some of your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I own a firm called Blunt Strategies, and my partner and I decided that with the kind of changing tides around cannabis, with all the businesses popping up in the hemp space, that getting into that cannabis business space would be a good spot for us to work. And it's a firm that does PR and branding and government relations. And we work with a lot of companies that are starting. We work with product companies that are launching, different CBD products that are in that cannabis business space. And I would say the biggest challenge right now is just as Natalie was talking about earlier, there's that constantly changing space, right? Regulations changing.
Moving target.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to abide by the rules, of course, and do well and work within those parameters and rules, but it's really intimidating. I mean, it's hard to know, is my label correct? Is my label correct today? Will it be correct in 2 weeks?
Yep.
The USDA just put out its interim final rule on hemp, and that has put a lot of people into a tailspin. There's questions about, what does the state have jurisdiction over versus federal?
The Department of Pharmacy, we have
you've got the Department of Pharmacy here, you've got the Department of Agriculture, so it's just, there's a lot in flux, a lot in motion, and I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is just staying abreast of, what can I do, what can't I do, what can I say, what can't I say. I can't make medical claims on CBD products. The Minnesota Hemp Association is looking at, well, we have introduced legislation this week actually that would allow for CBD to be in food and beverages, for example. So, that's currently something that's not allowed, and people have gotten caught in that space.
It's that gray market.
Yeah, so it's tough, and I think people, they want to follow the rules, but they also want to be part of this burgeoning industry, and it's hard to balance both of those things and to always feel like you are completely on top of it, because you may be on top of it one day, but not compliant the next.
When I was out in Colorado, Colorado is a great state, and I loved working in the industry. I think it was really fun to wake up every day and create a new culture. A culture of support, a culture of fun, and a culture of compliance. We really looked after each other. We looked after competitors. We didn't want anyone to look bad, because if one looked bad, we would all go down. So I think that as Minnesota implements, it's really important. You mentioned compliance, and where are you? It's a moving target. I've seen companies close down because they couldn't keep up with labeling requirements. Literally just shut down. So it's just something that I want our listeners to think about, and you ladies to think about as we move forward here in Minnesota, that we can build whatever we want. Well, we have a blank slate, and we can build something beautiful here.
And just thinking about it being International Women's Day,
right?
One of the things that has been surprising to me is the rapidity with which the industry has started to look like every other corporate industry, which is white male dominated. So as it has become a safer industry, as it has become a bigger space where there's more money coming into it, we're seeing a lot of those executive level titles at cannabis businesses change over. And I know for a lot of us, thinking about what our futures are as women in this space, this is something that we're taking very seriously and started to create, like an industry association for
Yeah.
women to be in this space together and to
Yeah.
network and to come together, because it is an extremely collaborative industry.
Which we're all in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Minnesota Women's Cannabis
Yeah.
Association is a great example of people wanting to be together.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Natalie, so with the business side, what do you see as your biggest challenges moving forward? I know, with the changing compliance, what are your needs as a small businesswoman working up in northern Minnesota, growing hemp on your property, creating these products? What are some of the big challenges that you've seen or experienced?
To be compliant now, every batch of each individual product that I make, and right now I'm making 100 products per batch, it's like $400 to have the lab test to make sure that it's compliant.
Yep.
So by the time I pay that, that's more than my mortgage when you add up all the products.
Right. People don't realize that all of this adds up, and that you have to get it tested. You don't just cook it up in your kitchen and slap a label on it and take it down to the tobacco shop on the corner, right?
Well, so when I white label products, I don't have to test it. They call me, they say, put this in this product, here's the CBD, I make it up, they take it and they go test it. And so I feel like I make better money when I just make the product for another business. The man-owned business.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Maren, I wanted to ask you just really quickly, since we're talking about business. Right now we have two businesses, correct, that deal with the medical program as the dispensaries. Could you just mention who those are and what the plans are for the future, and maybe adding a couple more?
Sure. We have two in-state manufacturers right now, Minnesota Medical Solutions and Leafline Labs. Each of them, by the end of this year, should have 16 sites. I think that sounds right. 16 sites total. Sorry.
16 sites where you can purchase, correct?
To purchase,
Yeah.
correct. We've been approached, as advocates, by a number of different people wanting a medical license in Minnesota, wanting us to pick up that legislation and try to get more licenses. But, being a nonprofit and being a woman, I am not inclined to go work for free for white men. So that's kind of where that's at. I mean, it would be wonderful if we could have more licenses, but obviously the two companies we have right now don't want that. They want to maintain their hold on the market, and their lobbying power is a lot stronger than mine.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at. I mean, I would say if any of the listeners want to get into the medical space as a manufacturer, then they need to get to work. Because it's there, the appetite's there, but you're competing with a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that's why it's really important that we sit down as women, like today and other days, and talk about these things, because we do need a strategy. We can't be reactionary. We can't just kind of react to what's handed to us. We have to have a plan, and we have to work together. We have to elevate each other. We have to help each other. So, it's supply and demand, right? The cost is really high on the medical program because we have high demand and we have low supply. So we need to bring some of that competition in to drive those prices down, make it fair for everyone. So, thanks for listening, everyone. We have one more session after this next PSA where we'll talk about predictions, and I just want to thank you all again for listening to International Women's Day here on Fresh Air Community Radio 90.3 FM.